Welcome to ITAD in 15. Today we're going to be talking about swimming the channel in terms of ITAD services and how they're presented through the channel. I'm joined today by John Gladstone of Softcat, Andy Gummersall of N2S, and Rob Doherty of Recycle IT. And John, you're first up to get things going. ITAD, it's just a price-based commodity, isn't it?
Yes, it's a great question to open with. But firstly, thank you for inviting me on today. It's good to be and it's good to speak to everyone. I mean, it's not a commodity. I don't think you can look at it like that. And if it is a commodity, it's certainly an extremely complex one at that. The one thing I would say is that I do think that the ITAD industry definitely gets the thin end of a big stick. And I think it's purely really down to the fact that the understanding from the channel and also the understanding from the end users just isn't there. And as I've had many conversations with people on this, this call, is that, when items come with a nice single part number in a nice box from distribution or from the vendor, and then they get shipped, from the reseller to an end user site, and then in 3 to 5 years when they're coming up for their end of life or second user life, they don't come out looking like that. They go in nice and slick in a cardboard box and come out with loads of different cables and loads of different part numbers to manage, with a process of logistics and security around it as well. And I think that people and especially we're guilty for it as well. People just don't understand the complexities that are involved in that reverse logistics, and we compare it to forward logistics as well. And I think that's one of the major areas that need to really change. But I'd open that up to Andy and Rob and get their thoughts on what that view is and whether they agree with me on that.
You're older than me, Rob. You go first.
Thanks for that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time today. John, you're right in saying the ITAD piece, very complex. I think a lot of clients are unsure as to sometimes how to navigate, how they need to dispose of equipment in a secure and ethical manner. And that's why firms like ourselves and N2S exist, really, to listen to what the client's requirements are, fill in the gaps of where they're uncertain, and to navigate them to where the best endpoint solution is for that particular requirement they've got. That's kind of it in a simplistic form for me, really. I don't know what additional thoughts Andy's got on that.
I did. Yeah, I think from our sector, the education's getting out there of exactly the positioning, and I think I personally believe procurement have a massive say in this, and I still think it's hugely subjective. And Steve's opening gambit was it's just a price pointed commodity, and I agree with it. I think that is still. If we're bidding on clients, whether it's via a reseller or directly, that is still the way it's procured. And I think we're all in agreement that needs to change. It's still subjective. It's still a human being deciding, do I trust these guys? Have I seen their operation? Do I believe they're going to provide me with the data security and the best value? And that's all I'm procuring. And I think the world today is massively changing. But I still think we have a job to do to educate the people that are making that decision, whether they are heads of supply chain and then the teams in procurement helping them. That's really the rest of it's all greenwashing and sales BS at the end of the day. We're better, we're great, we pay you more, we've got a better service, we've got a better coverage, blah, blah, blah. So I agree with it, but I believe it will change.
Yeah, and from my view on that is that I do think everyone has a part to play in it, and the difficult thing is for a reseller, and Andy, I've always said this to you, and I've even said it to Steve in the past, and Rob, is that it's the relationships that take Softcat, for example, the relationships we hold within those organizations that you want to get into. I'm not saying we hold better relationships, but it's easier for a Softcat as a reseller to go to talk about this subject with their with their contacts on that, within the organizations, and also to transact with them, it's a lot easier. My years of being an ITAD in a smaller business, we're trying to work with the larger blue chips and everything, where there's real opportunity for an ITAD to do well, offer value and also make money. Is that it's very difficult to broker that situation on the basis that ITAD is always seen as that final stage. There's always something more important, and so I think that the understanding, as you say, around procurement and also the education, and I think that we've done well at Softcat at that. So I think that from people offering, recognizing the opportunity and the value that can be delivered as a VAR by working in partnership with an ITAD, it strengthens the deal, it strengthens the relationship, and really does offer that value. I just think that, and again, as I've said before, is that everyone has a place within the channel. And let's go back to the channel. Is that the resellers are playing under rules. Let's say the distributors are playing under rules, and the agile side of things from an ITAD perspective is that you don't have to play to any rules, but you have to support the people within those swim lanes, to say. And I think that and looking at it from a sustainability angle, is that the innovation that resellers have to continuously do, bringing on new services, products, and things like that is challenging. But I think with using sustainability, as you said, the road is long and the opportunity is wide and out there. And I think that if the ITADs can get it right and they can work to support resellers to be more sustainable and offer more sustainable products. I don't know, we've sort of mentioned it in the past about how, ITADs, don't necessarily concentrate on those end user relationships, allow the resellers to offer the value, but then work in partnership with those ITADs to get that material down, recycled correctly, equipment that can be reused, and then the ITADs then broker that relationship with the distributors to then deliver that, that new box of refurbished or remanufactured equipment again. And I think for me at the moment, I think that is going to be the next opportunity for ITADs to offer that value.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rob and I will join forces on this and asking you the question from poacher term to a certain degree gamekeeper, right? Is our Softcat and the channel. So let's not just make it Softcat, but are the channel genuinely pushing whether it's internal or outsourced? Are they pushing it hard enough? So my bit is, I'm selling one box. Am I getting one back? Is that happening today? The Ellen MacArthur Foundation say that we're 9% circular. What percentage of the channel in getting outbound and inbound joined up?
Yeah, for sure. So look, I on statistics from last year, personally at Softcat, we are over 10%, but not necessarily that much. And it's a very, very good question. What are we doing about it? I think that we're very lucky of the way we are structured, and we have those end user specialists that can go in and offer that value. They're not, the account managers do it as well, and an experienced account manager will offer more value or more insight before handing over to an end user specialist to ensure that is done. I think the interesting thing is that as we move, and this isn't redirecting the question, but when you move more into a DAS model, for example, rather than a CapEx model, is that we have full responsibility around a CapEx model, because we can go back in after 3 to 5, whatever the tenure is, and say, look, let's work with you to get those devices back out. What we tend to see is that the reliance now on the finance big companies that are then taking that asset after a period of time. And I think that is the answer. Sorry?
Where's the asset going then? After 3 years.
Where is that going after 3 years? Is it going second life? Is it this? Is it that? And we're trying to work more and more with the customers to look at buyout opportunities. It's not about money making, but can you buy that device to give it more longevity? Can you support that going forward? Can you offer it to your staff? What does that look like? And I think that we have to be more agile. We always use the word agile, more dynamic around what those finance propositions look like as well. Is that, does that end user still have the ability to purchase that device, or are they just literally washing their hands of it? And I think that that itself is, and I'm sure you both have partnerships with those, or are very aware of those finance houses that offer that, and also, are they pulling back the value that we as companies can offer, and how are they managing their downstreams?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's based on residuals, isn't it? And how strong the residuals are. That's the the challenge in the channel is competition. And being frank, if the resellers had the 3-year cycle nailed each time, I don't think we would have as big a challenge in the ITAD sector as we do, because of competition, margin competition on commodity priced hardware. So it comes down to level of service, and Rob agrees on this front. It is level of service. It's as close as you can to guaranteeing a certain, with inflation and the challenge around supply in the marketplace, and guaranteeing a value, a residual value. And I think there's an opportunity here for the channel to sell quicker than they do. Right. So sustainability factors would be, we need to stretch it out 5 years. You're greener if you do that. But actually, could it be 2 years? Because the device after 2 years has got a better second life and a longer second life than it would do if you sweated that asset 3, 4, 5 years. But frankly, it's still going to come into the coffers of N2S, because we want the circuit boards, right? But what do you think on that, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting point as well, looking at the supply chain shortages in the channel at this moment in time. I don't see that problem going away. If anything, it potentially can become worse. And what will be an interesting factor, and I suppose a question back to yourself, John, is, on renewed and refurbished devices, how seriously are resellers starting to look at that as a real solution provider for the clients?
Yeah, so sexier and cooler, isn't it? All of a sudden, because there's nothing to sell.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, if you look at like circular computing and tier 1A and things like that, I think, the product that they're bringing to the market needed to happen to sort of set that bar. Some of the products you buy, it is like opening a new device, which is fantastic. And we sort of need to overcome that piece, and as I said, I, as Andy alluded to, I'm from that world, and I love that world. It was so, the ability to be entrepreneurial was fantastic. But when you look at it, is that we sort of need to get rid of that image of, I always say, just spit it, give it a wipe down, and just wipe it, put windows on it, and kick it back out. And I think that if we can get customers or educate the end users to understand what that remanufacture or remarket process, refurbish process looks like, and that's what I sort of alluded to earlier, and work with those vendors to recognize the great work that the ITADs are doing, on that circular economy piece. We will get somewhere with that, and that's the opportunity that I see. And then Andy, that sort of supports what you were saying about that quicker refresh cycle. But to answer your question, Rob, is that we are taking it really seriously, and we have to. We are handcuffed to a certain extent by the way that the channel works, but those handcuffs can only remain on for so long, given the fact that, with the new ICT greening regulation or policies that have been brought in, the PN 0621s, which we have to have carbon reduction plans in place. As always say, we have to decouple. We have to, continue to generate revenue while reducing our emissions, and increasing the life cycle, or shortening the life cycle of devices, but making sure they have that second and third life, with the introduction of refurbished asset as well, which should see the reduction of overall manufacturing of equipment. That is the only way that that we can go, I believe.
So, what question from me, just in terms of the IP? Where is the future IP in ITAD? Where is it? And that's why it's a commodity on pricing, because it is that spit and clean up. Where do you see it going?
So look, for me, I think that the ITAD industry is in the prime that it's ever been. It's always been that, as I said earlier, it always tended to be that last piece, and the last link in the chain, and it was very difficult to talk to a customer or an end user, should I say, about sustainability. We never used to call it sustainability. This is a new word for us, right? And I always say I've been in the IT industry for 10 plus years doing sustainability, but we just call it sustainability.
30 years, mate. 30 years.
Well, yeah, for some of us.
Yeah.
So, but tough paper around. But I mean, look, the IP is in that circular economy, but supporting those vendors and working with those vendors to refurbish it. So, Softcat do a buyback of X number of devices, that they're working with the vendor to make sure the material goes back to a certified ITAD and then back. And a lot of it is down to the data as well. I've had conversation with Steve about how we track these devices. How do we prove that one in, one out scenario? How do we prove that at reseller level? How do we prove it at distribution level? How do we prove that at vendor level? And the vendor level is the more important one as well.
Guys, yeah. I'm gonna cut across you there. The 15 minutes is up. I know we started a bit late. There was loads of really good stuff pulled out. ITADs complex as a sub-bar. Opportunity of working with the channel because you've got the touch points in the clients. There's a general appreciation that there's some synergy that perhaps the two are misfiring together at the moment, almost working against each other rather than in unity to actually achieve what we think is the opportunity, which Andy eloquently put as BS, where there is a lot of BS in this world, and we can overcome some of this by working in unison. Is kind of what I think the subtitle will be. I'm going to say thank you very much indeed, John, Andy, and Robert, and for everybody watching. We will be sending out the link to this recording, assuming the gentlemen are happy with what they said. There was nothing contentious, so I see no reason why not. And we will be sending you out the invite to the next ITAD in 15 shortly as well. So thank you very much, gentlemen. If you can stay on, I'd like to have a quick chat with you afterwards. But enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you all. Cheers, Steve.